Now that we are well into fall and winter is quickly approaching, the days are getting shorter and running in daylight is becoming harder. Oisel's premium reflective collection is designed with runner safety in mind. Both highly visible in the dark but subtle in the daytime, thanks to the tonal reflective print that only shines bright when reflecting the light. From tights, shorts, jackets, and tanks to accessories like hats and gloves, with Oisel's reflective collection, you can stay safe and stay seen. It is dark here in Cleveland where I've been running, so I just love Oisel's reflective collection. I'm a big fan of the firecracker tights. The bird pattern is so cute, and they look all over sparkly at night. To check out the firecracker tights and the rest of the reflective collection, go to oisel.com/collection/reflective, or even easier, click the banner link at the top of the Hear Her Sports website at hearhersports.com. Hello there. I'm back with the second edition of the special Cross Country Ski World Cup Race Report. It's still Hear Her Sports, and I'm still Elizabeth Emery, but today we are doing something slightly different. The race reports are short and post between main episodes. The term race reports is somewhat of a misnomer because while we do talk about the racing, we also take a look at the backstory of the racing and lessons learned. Be sure to listen to the first episode with Julia Kern on RUCA World Cup. And with me today is the stellar Rosie Brennan to look back at the Gallivare World Cup in Sweden. It was another cold one, and again, the U.S. did great. In the 10K freestyle, Rosie tied for 6th, Jessie Diggins won, and 3 U.S. women finished in the top 15. And in the 4 by 7.5 kilometer team relay, the U.S. finished 3rd. Rosie goes over what it's like to race in a team relay and some tactics specific to this last weekend. The Gallivare World Cup took place on December 2nd and 3rd. Rosie talks about the course, which is very different from the previous week in RUCA. We also talk about bountiful podium gift bags, balancing wanting to increase fitness with also wanting some pop on race day, Rosie's youthful ski age, and gratitude, which is a lovely way to head into the new year. Rosie also offers one of the best discussions I've heard of what life on the road is like. If you don't already know Rosie Brennan, you are in for a real treat. She started strong right off the bat at the first World Cup of the season in RUCA, Finland, where she was on the podium twice. In the 10K Classic race, she finished 2nd, which was her first individual classic podium of her career. And then the very next day, she finished 3rd in the 20K skate. But Rosie has a strong history. She's a 4-time U.S. champion, 2018 and 2022 Olympian, and has been on the national team for 10 years. She also lives in Alaska, which means she is very tough. Here's Rosie. Well, hello, Rosie. It is so great to have you here. I'm just so excited to be doing these race reports, and you're doing so well. Everyone is doing so well. And it's super fun to see all the Americans right up there in the mix, duking it out with everybody else. It's great.
Yeah, it has been really great. We've had a strong start to the season, and yeah, I'm excited to be here. I've listened to some of your podcasts previously, so it's great to get my chance to be a guest as well.
Oh, well, wonderful. So today we're going to be talking about Gallivare. Is that how you pronounce it?
Yeah, I think so.
Well enough. Anyway,
Yeah.
it's in Sweden, and the relay looked great. You were on the podium, so I have to satisfy my curiosity a little bit. Like, what was all that swag that you guys got?
um, yeah, good question. We got a block of cheese, so that's always kind of the exciting part.
How big was that?
The blocks of cheese are, gosh, they're close to 3 kilograms of cheese. It's
Oh
a
my
lot of
gosh.
cheese.
That's
So
a
our
lot
team
of
is definitely
cheese.
rolling in the cheese right now.
That's excellent.
Um, so that's great. Yeah, and then there was some chocolate and some a charging cable, which is very random but also incredibly useful. Um, some like I don't know how you say it, like glug. I think it's kind of like the Scandinavian version of like glühwein or something like that.
I never heard of
Um,
that.
it's like kind of a spiced wine that you heat
Oh,
up.
right. Okay.
Yeah, I think that's what it is. I haven't dug into it yet.
Okay.
And yeah, what else? I think that's about it. Oh, and some tea. Yeah.
Oh, that's a nice little package.
Yeah, it was nice.
Cool. Well, other than all of that stuff, how did the race go for you?
It was good. Yeah, well, relays are just, they tend to be fun races, I think. And Saturday was like, yeah, it was a fine enough race for me, but I definitely didn't feel that I skied to my best ability. And so I was thankful to get like a second chance. And my classic skiing has been feeling really good. So I was excited to be on the classic leg. And Jesse skied such a strong first leg. And so I don't know. I didn't really ski the way I had intended to, but she tagged me off in a position that I thought, well, maybe if I can break them now, maybe there's a chance that I can like keep a gap. So I just decided to go with it and go with the feelings that I and the excitement that I had when I got tagged off. And I skied a very hard first lap and definitely was suffering my second lap, but did my best to kind of just keep moving and to keep the gap as big as I could, knowing that we would need that against some of the other teams in the later legs. And so yeah, it was a unique and fun experience. I haven't had that experience in a relay before, and we tried it kind of a new order than we normally do. And so yeah, it was really nice to like just try something new and get a new experience and kind of expand, our options in the relay.
Talk a little bit more about that order and, like the tactics of that and what went into the decision. I'm so curious about how you guys came to that.
Yeah, it's always tricky because I mean, it would be nice if we could just be like, oh, here's our order. We're going to do this every time. But the thing is, like having four people skiing at their best on the same day is remarkably challenging, especially when we only have, I think we had 7 women over here to choose from. So it's not like, we can just call up somebody from the US and fly them in because they're skiing fast. That's not really an option. So that's like what makes the relay special, I think, is to get four people that are skiing fast at the same time is kind of that challenge. And so we always have to look at kind of like where everyone is at right then and do our best to kind of make up the order based on the strengths of the different people that are skiing well at that moment, and then balance that out with what we guess we think the other teams might do. And so traditionally leg two has always kind of been a leg where people put their more distance oriented athletes to kind of like blow things up a bit. And so that one's like always kind of been a leg that's challenging and one you want to be ready for. And so the hard part then is having a first leg that can hang with the group, because if you get tagged off to the best in the world with a deficit, it's hard to make that up. But if you get tagged off with them, then there's always a good chance you can stay with them. And so that's kind of been always one of our challenges in picking an order, and especially with Jessie being such a strong anchor always, it's hard to like pass that up because she's so good in that role. But because it was a World Cup and not a championship, we decided to like test this out and see if Jessie couldn't um break things up a little bit in the first leg and give me a chance to build that gap, and if we could get a big enough gap that could hold on for the next two legs. And so yeah, that was kind of our thought, that we would just try something new and see where it's at. And yeah, I mean, I think it worked pretty well. It's, like I said, it's always hard to get four people having their best day on the same day. But I think, yeah, we put together a strong team, and we all had very strong efforts against our respective competitions in each of our legs. And so it worked out pretty well.
Yeah, you guys look great. And so you had mentioned that it's 2 laps. Explain to me about the distance because I have a vague feeling that it's recently been upped and the men's distance has been reduced a little bit to make them equal. Am I, like, making that up?
Nope, that's exactly right. So it
Okay.
used to be the 4x5K for the women and 4x10K for the men. We've moved to this equal distance, and so it was kind of this debate on what the distance would be, and the consensus was just to go right down the middle. So it's now 4x7.5K for both men and women, and those distances were adopted for World Championships and the Olympics as well. So those will be the distances, at least for the near future, that we'll be doing. And so usually, I mean, just to make it, I mean, you obviously could do 1x7.5K loop, but generally because of TV and like wanting to have a lot of cameras on the course and stuff, it'll usually be a 2 lap course. So we did 2 by 3.75 kilometers.
And this is the first race that it's been that distance?
Gosh, that's a good question. I'm trying to think if we did that last year or not.
Oh, okay.
Um, we didn't do it at the championship last year because the championships like get approved so far in advance that by the time the equal distancing went through, the
Ah,
championship was
okay.
already set up. But I can't remember if we did it in World Cup or not.
Right. What do you think about the distance, or what has been the general consensus about that?
I mean, this was the first time, so yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's definitely long. Like in terms of racing, it was fine. I don't know that I felt that much of a difference, honestly. But when I'm waiting for my teammates to go, it felt long. So, I- yeah, I don't know. Maybe spectators think it's too long. I'm not sure. I do think the women's one in particular was like we had quite a lot. Well, the men's actually was very exciting too. There were a lot of lead changes. So I don't know if that was the distance or the course or what led to that, but that always makes for a more interesting event in general, is if it's a little tighter and there's some lead changes throughout the race.
And what do you do when the other skiers are racing? I mean, obviously you're prepping when the first leg is going off
Yeah.
if you're the second, but once you're done, are you out on the course cheering everybody?
Yeah, yeah. Usually whatever, try to get some warm clothes and drink food, that sort of thing quickly. And then yeah, kind of for my cool down, I'll like jog. I mean, it depends a little bit on the venue and the course, but yeah, try to jog out on course a bit and cheer for the other legs. That's kind of like the fun part of the relay is like we really are all in it together. So any extra energy I can give to the other legs, it all will help me in the end as well. So that's definitely
Sure.
like the fun part of it.
And since you mentioned the course, can you compare this course to last week's course and maybe also the temperature because it's been really cold?
Yeah. Yeah. The course this weekend was probably about as opposite as the first weekend as you could get. In Gallivare, it's much more gradual terrain and a lot of twists and turns. So it was kind of always something new, like, a little up, a little down, a little right, left, up, down, like just kind of constantly like meandering through the woods there, as opposed to Ruka's like very steep climbs, but there was only like two per lap. They were just very steep. So it was very different style. Yeah, that's always fun too because it's like kind of can suit different skiers' strengths. So that's something we're always looking at. Also, when picking the relay team, is like who skis really well in the particular terrain of the venue that we're at, and how can we best use those skills.
So how like if you're looking at these last two races, what have you gotten from it? Where do you want to go next? Like now that you've had a couple days perspective on this last race, like what are your thoughts?
I mean, no, I don't think too much has changed within the last 2 weeks. I was I don't know if like maybe a little bit surprised, I guess I could say, about how well I raced in Ruka, and I knew I was in good shape, but you never know like what does that mean because you don't know what kind of shape everyone else is in. And so that was really cool to see that my training had gone well, and my fitness was in a really good place, and I was in a good place and enjoying racing. And so now it's just kind of this game of like trying to carry it on as long as you can, or at least until we get a break for Christmas and you can have like that kind of little reset. But for this period one, we're racing. I'm doing all the races, so it's like two or three races every weekend for 4 weeks. So there's not a whole lot of time to like change much between the races, especially because one day spent traveling, and then yeah, we have a few days to ski, and so you can do little things. But it's mostly just about, yeah, trying to maintain that, keep just enough training that you're not like losing fitness for the later half of the season, but not training so much that then you can't use the fitness you have now over the weekend and in the races. So it is a little bit of a tricky balance, but and then part of it is also just keeping your head in a good place, like continuing to find ways to enjoy what you're doing, and enjoy, kind of settle into like life on the road, because it's a long haul for us, and kind of getting settled in that sense as well.
Do you enjoy the life on the road? Or have you yeah, how do you manage it, I guess?
Yeah, yeah, yes, and I sometimes I enjoy it, and sometimes it's really hard. I definitely, especially as I get older and the team gets younger, I love all my teammates. They're wonderful people to hang out with, but we are definitely just like uh in different life phases, I guess. And so I certainly miss my close friends at home and the community that I have at home. I find that very challenging on the road, but it's also really cool what I get to do. And I love exploring new places, especially on my skis. I think that's just like a really fun way to see the world. And I really enjoy training and racing still. So I try to just, keep that in mind of like why I'm doing this. Like, it's the skiing part that's really fun for me and that I enjoy so much. And so trying to kind of it- you know dig into those aspects a little bit and really enjoy those parts. But yeah, there's always moments that it's tough and you get homesick and you're tired of being around all the same people all the time and missing
Right.
missing your people at home and all that kind of thing. I think honestly, I think the thing I struggle with the most is not necessarily the people or like being around the same people, like they're all wonderful people, but it's just you lose a little bit of your like independence and autonomy because you're
Oh,
operating as a
totally.
team unit and I can't just like hop in my car and go somewhere when I want to. And
Right.
I really struggle with that. I'm kind of a very well, I am a very independent person, and I really thrive off having that kind of daily autonomy. So I try to find ways to bring that in. And if we are staying in a place that I can ski from the hotel, that's like the dream. Then I can kind of operate on my own schedule a little bit, or sometimes taking a little break from the team and when we have a weekend off, doing something different for a bit or things like that.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned your age because I remember when I first started watching you on TV and commentators were always talking about how old you were, which at that point was like 30, I think. And it
Hmm.
was always sort of this like, "Oh my god, how is she still around?" And I'm not hearing that anymore. It seems like maybe there's a greater acceptance of a range of skiers and, age, body type, all that stuff. I mean, do you get that impression?
I don't know. I mean, it's hard to tell because like I struggle with it myself. Like especially just given the youngness of our team now, it's hard for me not to feel it every day that I'm so much older. And so it's definitely something like I battle in my own head. I don't really know, I guess, what public perception is if people are like, God, move on with your life, or if they like find it really cool. Probably a mix of both. I definitely have had, some people reach out and tell me that it's been like inspiring and whatnot. But the thing that I always come back to is like I mean I didn't start skiing till I was 14, so I was kind of old when I learned to ski as well. And so like for me, I try to think about it like in skiing age. Like most of my peers started skiing when they were like 3 or something like that. So if my 14 was the equivalent of being 3, then in terms of the years that I've actually been skiing, like I'm just passing 20 now. So that's the equivalent of a 25-year-old who's started when they were 3.
Right.
And so I think there is something to be said for just like the number of hours and years of doing something that it takes to be good at it. And that's going to look a little different for everyone just based on who you are and how you work. And for me, it definitely took all of those years. Like I just needed that much time to learn how the sport worked and to build my fitness to a place that was like competitive on this level. And so, call it a justification, I guess, if you want, but that's often what I come back to and think about and just enjoying like that I did reach this level and that I've made a career out of it, and that's something young me just had in her dreams, not in like her actual goals. And so just trying to like enjoy that even if it did come at a later point in my life, and hoping that I can still have experience some of the other things that normal 35-year-olds experience at some other time in my life.
We were just talking about how, performance, like successful performance is a mix of so much stuff and, you can't predict it.
Hmm.
And, you're bringing something special from your age, whereas the younger athletes don't have that.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I mean, maybe I don't have quite as much like pop in my in my stride as some of them, but I do have many, many years of experience, and I've had lots of different I've been at a lot of these venues many times, and that's definitely worth something. It's also like I think something that does help me a lot too is just how much our team has changed. It's like when my first World Cup. I mean, well, when I was God, I don't even know. I was in high school, and the U.S. team cut the entire women's team. There was no women's cross
Wow.
country ski team, so like and you're sitting there as a high schooler being like, oh, what future do I have in this? Like, why am I doing this sport? And just like, how far we've come, I think gives me a ton of perspective and gratitude for the opportunity to do this, and just gratitude for all the support and belief that we have had from people over the years. And, now we're traveling, we're filling all of our start spots on World Cup, which that definitely didn't happen. We have PTs and doctors and chefs and all kinds of support staff that are like giving so much of their time and energy to help us succeed, and all that's showing in our results. And so it is really cool to see that, and it gives me a ton of gratitude and perspective for kind of this movement that was started so long ago, and to be one little piece of it, and that is something that motivates me, and is special.
Yeah. Well, to wrap up, can you talk a little bit about Minnesota coming up, the World Cup Minnesota? I mean, for me, it's just so exciting. I'm going to be there. The thought of just seeing you guys whizzing by me is just super great.
Yeah, yeah, I'm pretty excited for it too. It's funny when it was supposed to come in 2020, and then of course the pandemic hit and it was canceled. But the funny part about that is like I honestly wasn't planning to go because it was just a sprint. And so I was focusing my energy on the distance races at that point, and then it was like, oh, they're never gonna do this again. Like they lost so much money off of that cancellation, and it was just, such a heartbreak of a thing. And so then when I heard they uh whoever got that energy and momentum going again, like, thank you. I think it was a lot of people, but it suddenly like had this renewed energy, and I think it just honestly, I think the enthusiasm and excitement for it just like quadrupled from 2020, and I am so excited I get a chance to be part of it. And since I've had a lot of success since 2020, like my community and my family and friends and all these people are so much more invested in the sport as well. And so I have so many people coming to watch those races, and I'm just so excited they get a chance to see what this looks like live, because all they do is like see some clips and see the results on line when they wake up in the morning, but to see it live I think is such a unique experience. So I'm really thankful that we get that opportunity to showcase that. And having been like I was a spectator in the 2002 Olympics in Salt Lake. That's where I grew up. And so, that had a massive impact on me. So I think I also have this unique understanding of how powerful that can be to like have an event like that come to you as a kid in a community, and just to kind of like open your eyes as to the possibilities that are out there. And so I really hope that we can, spark just a big wave of enthusiasm and joy for cross country skiing moving forward, and really keep this momentum that we have going for many, many years to come.
I can't see how it would not do that. Yeah, it's going to be great. Well, thank you so much, and good luck for the rest of the season. And we'll be watching you, and I'll say hello and a wave as you whiz by in Minnesota.
That sounds great. Thank you so much for having me.
How great was that? Talking to Rosie Brennan. I hope you enjoyed this special cross country ski World Cup race report. And thank you to Rosie and the entire U.S. team of athletes and support crew. Check out her show notes page for more on Rosie and things she brought up. Included there is a link to the Minnesota World Cup, which takes place not long from now in February. Also on the website, there are ways to reach me, sign up for the newsletter, listen to all of the episodes, and to support the show through Buy Me a Coffee. Go to hearhersports.com. If you are new to Hear Her Sports, welcome! There are so many guests for you to discover, including ski racers Olivia Bouffard-Nesbitt and Julia Kern. Find 2 other Alaskans like Lisa Keller. Hear Her Sports is part of the Evergreen Podcast Network. To find out more about what they offer, go to evergreenpodcast.com. And finally, thank you for listening. I really appreciate that you're here. I just love learning about female athletes, and I hope you also got something from the episode. Have a great week, and be sure to check back in for the next race report. Bye-bye.
Hey there, and welcome to the Joy of Paddle podcast, hosted by me, Minter Dial, a veteran of the paddle tennis world, and sponsored by Paddle 1969. Whether you're a paddle tennis aficionado, just beginning, or have never even heard of paddle, or padel, as it's called in North America, this is an exhilarating new show that delves into the captivating stories of notable paddle personalities worldwide. In its inaugural season, you'll be treated to exclusive anecdotes, valuable tips, life lessons, and humorous moments shared by esteemed professional paddle players, industry insiders, and passionate paddle enthusiasts. With each season aligning with the Pro Tour, you can anticipate 2 engaging episodes per month. The Joy of Paddle podcast is part of the Evergreen Podcast Network, where you can find other great shows in a number of categories, such as sports, health and wellness, true crime, and fiction. To find out more about Evergreen Podcasts, go to www.evergreenpodcast.com. Vamos!